They stole her legacy, erased her name, and slammed every door shut. But Marin Blake didn't ask for a seat at the table. She came back to build her own, brick by brick, with the truth they tried to bury. It was Christmas Eve, the kind that used to make Marin Blake believe in magic. Snow dusted the windows. The fireplace crackled softly. Her mother's famous cinnamon cider filled the air with warmth. But something was off. Marin stood in the hallway, just out of sight, clutching a small box wrapped in silver paper. Her heart thudded softly beneath her sweater. She'd come home hoping to feel something she hadn't felt in years: belonging. From where she stood, she could see the dining table, long, polished, and set for 12. Silver cutlery sparkled beside crystal glasses. Deep red napkins were folded like roses. Candles flickered beside handwritten name cards. Her eyes scanned the table, searching for one name. Her own. Marin. She didn't see it. Her stomach dropped, but she kept looking. Maybe it was hidden under a plate. Maybe someone moved it. But no. Colin's name was there. Lana's. Even distant cousin Brent, who once showed up drunk and knocked. Over the tree. But no Marin. She stepped forward, her boots silent on the wood floor. Her brother Colin looked up, carving a glazed ham like he owned the place. He gave her a smirk. Well, he said. Look who decided to show up. Lana, sitting beside him, laughed too loudly and too fast. She was wearing their mother's favorite scarf, the red one with snowflakes, the one Marin gave her years ago. Marin tried to keep her voice calm. Where's my seat? Colin pointed over his shoulder. Outside, with the dogs. The room went quiet. Too quiet. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else looked at their plate like it had become very interesting. Their mother, standing at the kitchen island with a tray of sweet potatoes, didn't even turn around. She just kept smoothing marshmallows across the top like Marin hadn't spoken at all. Marin blinked. Are you serious? Colin leaned back in his chair. You didn't call for 6 months. Thought you preferred your big city life. We figured you wouldn't be coming back. I texted Mom 3 days ago. She said to come. Marin's voice cracked, just slightly. Now her mother turned, face calm but distant. I didn't expect you to show up, Marin. You always say things but never follow through. It's exhausting. The words hit like cold water. Marin stood frozen. All eyes were on her, but no one said a word in her defense. Not even Auntie Denise, who used to sneak her extra pie slices. Not even her father, who sat at the end of the table, silently sipping wine and pretending to be deaf. She looked at her little gift. Something simple. A small photo album of old family pictures, reprinted and handbound. She'd spent hours putting it together. Now it felt heavy in her hands. I flew across the country for this, she whispered. Colin chuckled. Well, next time maybe don't. Lana leaned in. Why don't you stay at a hotel next time, sweetie? You don't fit in here anymore. That was it. That was the moment something inside Marin shifted. For years, she had blamed herself, telling herself she was too sensitive, too distant, too different to belong. But standing there, watching the people she once loved treat her like a stranger, something hardened. She nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in her throat. Right, got it. She turned around, walking toward the door. Her mother didn't stop her. Her brother didn't call her back. No one moved as she stepped into the cold night, snow brushing her shoulders. Marin felt more alone than she ever had before, but also, strangely, more awake. She looked down at the photo album still in her hands. Then, without a word, she dropped it in the snow. From that moment on, Marin Blake knew. She was done being the forgotten one. Done begging for a place at someone else's table. They didn't want her at the table? Fine. She'd build her own. And one day they'd be the ones begging for a seat. The snow crunched under Marin's boots as she walked away from the only home she'd ever known. Her breath came out in soft clouds, each one a silent scream swallowed by the night. She had no car. No plan. Just a coat, a phone at 17%, and a backpack with 2 sweaters, an old laptop, and a folder of design pitches she was planning to show her mother. A mistake. She reached the main road and stopped, not sure whether to turn left toward the bus stop or right toward the old inn by the lake. Her fingers were starting to go numb, so she shoved them deep into her coat pockets and looked up. The moon hung like a cold eye in the sky, watching, silent, unblinking. Marin blinked hard, swallowing, the sting in her chest. She couldn't cry. Not out here, not now. A car drove by without slowing down. A second one passed, music thumping from inside, then vanished into the snowy dark. No one saw her. No one cared, except for one person. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ray. "Hey, heard you're back in town. Want to meet up?" Marin let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Ray always had a sixth sense for when Marin was about to spiral. They hadn't talked much in the last year. Life, distance, and pride had gotten in the way, but some people stick, no matter how many months fall silent between you. She replied quickly, "Yes. Anywhere warm." 5 minutes later, she was sitting inside Ray's ancient Honda Civic, wrapped in a spare blanket with a hot coffee warming her hands. Ray glanced at her with concern but didn't press. "Not yet." "I saw Lana's post," Ray said finally, pulling onto a quiet street. "Big family dinner. Fancy setup. But no Marin." Marin stared out the window. "Yeah, no seat for me." Ray was quiet for a moment. Then softly, "I'm sorry." Marin took a sip of coffee. It tasted like burnt sugar and regret. "You ever feel like they've been waiting for you to fail just so they could say, 'We told you so'?" Ray nodded. "Every day of senior year. You just figured it out?" That made Marin laugh. Just a little. The kind that hurts but helps. 2. They pulled into Ray's driveway. Nothing had changed. Same flickering porch light. Same cracked step on the left. Same wind chime that sang too loudly in storms. Inside, Ray handed her pajamas and a blanket. "Stay as long as you need. You want to talk? I'm here. You don't. I'm still here." Marin sat on the couch and let the quiet wrap around her. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft, relentless. She opened her laptop and stared at the pitch deck she had built for her mother. It was her dream project, an interior design brand built on sustainable materials, clean lines, and heritage craftwork. She'd named it Blake House, a tribute to the family she had hoped would support her. Now the name felt like a joke. Blake House, the house that never let her in. She stared at the folder and slowly dragged it into the trash, but she didn't press delete. Not yet. "Do you remember Mrs. Kessler from high school?" Ray asked from the kitchen. "She runs the local art collective now. They're looking for someone to help with branding and interior layout for the new gallery downtown." Marin raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "Yeah. And she still likes you. Said you had vision." Marin hesitated. "I don't know. I feel kind of finished." Ray came over and crouched beside her. "You're not finished. They just made you feel like you are. You were always the strongest one out of all of us. You just forgot for a minute." Marin looked at her old friend. Kind eyes, chipped nail polish, and sleeves stained with paint. Ray had always believed in things Marin barely dared to hope for. Maybe it was time to believe again. "I'll meet Mrs. Kessler," she said finally. "But only if you come with me." Ray grinned. "Deal." That night, Marin lay awake on Ray's couch, staring at the ceiling. She didn't feel better. Not yet. But the fire was starting to flicker again. Something sharp. Something focused. They thought they had broken her. They thought kicking her out would be the end. But they didn't know her. They didn't know what she'd been building in silence. Mrs. Kessler's office smelled like old books and fresh ideas. Her eyes sparkled behind thick glasses as she looked through Marin's old sketches. "You have something," she said, tapping a page. "Your work has soul, not just Polish." Marin felt something rise in her chest. Hope. And something deeper. Fuel. "I want to hire you for the gallery redesign," Mrs. Kessler said. "You'll have full creative control, and a small team." Marin blinked. "Really? Really? This town needs a new face." And frankly, you've got one they won't forget. As Marin walked out of the office, snowflakes falling gently around her, she felt something settle inside her. She wasn't trying to go back anymore. She was going forward. And one day, when Blake House rose higher than her family ever imagined, they would remember this snow-covered night, and she would remember how it felt to be erased, and she would make sure they never erased anyone else again. The gallery was a dusty maze of half-painted walls, exposed brick, and forgotten dreams. But Marin saw potential in every crack. She stood in the middle of the main floor with Mrs. Kessler, blueprints in hand, wearing a borrowed beanie and boots too worn to care. "We want it to feel modern," Mrs. Kessler explained, "but with the heartbeat of something real, honest, local." Marin nodded slowly, imagining natural wood tones, raw textures, reclaimed stone. "Art needs space to breathe. So do people." Mrs. Kessler smiled. "Exactly why I chose you." As Ray helped move a crate of old furniture, Marin caught her eye. They exchanged a silent grin. This was it. The first brick. That night, Marin sat at Ray's kitchen table, sketching into the early hours. Her laptop pinged with a message from a design forum she used to frequent. "Saw your post? Interested in your vision. Let's talk collab." Cal Harper, Studio Echo. Marin hesitated. Cal Harper. Former branding prodigy turned indie rebel. She had admired his work since college. If he was watching, others might too. She clicked reply. "Would. Love to connect. Let's build something bold." She didn't mention the fire in her chest, or the silent war she was waging beneath the surface. But a plan was forming. Marin's hands were sore from sanding old wood, typing proposals, and writing invoices. Her nights blurred into early mornings. But she was alive in a way she hadn't been in years. Mrs. Kessler's gallery project was shaping up fast. The design came together beautifully, local textures, minimalist lighting, and a touch of elegance that whispered, not shouted. Cal Harper had offered to co-brand one of the installation rooms. Marin pitched the collaboration to the gallery board and got the green light. It was a small win, but it felt enormous. "Next week," Ray said as they painted the gallery's front door a bold charcoal gray, "you should relaunch your site. Something clean, simple, just you." Marin shook her head. "I can't call it Blake House anymore." "Why not?" Ray challenged. "Your name's not theirs to keep. Take it back." That night, Marin pulled up her old domain. It was still hers, though she hadn't touched it in months. She stared at the blinking cursor, then began typing. Blake House Design. We build from what others break. A soft, dangerous smile tugged at her lips. Back at the Blake estate, a very different kind of conversation was happening. Lana Blake, elegant in pearls and polished resentment, tapped through Instagram as she sipped her third espresso. "Mother," she said, turning the phone toward Catherine Blake, "why is Marin's name suddenly trending in local design circles?" Catherine looked up from her tablet. "Is it?" "Yes. Gallery Kessler is being redone by her, and now she's collaborating with Cal Harper. That's our territory." Catherine's mouth tightened. "She's grasping at crumbs. It won't last." Lana didn't look so sure. "She called it Blake House, Mom. That name belongs to us." "No," Catherine said coolly. "She abandoned it the moment she left this house." Opening night. The gallery shimmered under soft gold light. The city's local press had shown up. So had bloggers, designers, even 2 minor influencers. Marin stood at the center in a tailored black jumpsuit, simple, powerful, her hair swept up, and a thin silver line traced along her collarbone. She had worked every inch of this place. People were whispering her name now, not behind closed doors, out loud. Cal Harper stood beside her, smiling. "You did it. Told you the world was watching." Marin scanned the crowd. Her hands were steady. Her heart wasn't racing. It was rising. And then she saw them. Her family, Catherine, Lana, even her younger brother Ethan, who looked like he'd been dragged there against his will. They hadn't come to support her. They had come to assess her, as if she were a product, A threat. A storm they hadn't predicted. Marin walked over to them slowly, heels echoing on polished floors. She stopped just a few feet away, never dropping her smile. "Well," she said, voice smooth as silk. "I didn't expect you to come." Catherine's expression didn't flicker. "We were curious." Lana glanced around. "This is impressive. A bit raw, but charming." Marin tilted her head. "Raw has flavor. You'd be surprised." Ethan leaned in, muttering, "You pulled this off. Good for you." It wasn't praise. It was awe. Catherine stepped closer. "I hope you understand this doesn't change anything." Marin looked her dead in the eye. "No, it doesn't change the past. But it's shaping my future. One you're no longer invited to." A beat of silence. Then Marin turned, walking away. Before they could respond. The applause began just seconds later, drowning out the cold silence they left behind. That night, Marin stood on the rooftop above the gallery, looking down at the streetlights, her breath fogging in the crisp air. Ray joined her, handing over a drink. "You looked them right in the eye. I saw it." Marin laughed softly. "They came to measure my failure. And left choking on your success." They clinked glasses. Marin looked out at the city. She wasn't finished. Not even close. She had only just begun. The Monday after the gallery launch, Marin's inbox overflowed. Design inquiries, speaking invites, collaboration offers. A boutique hotel chain wanted a proposal. A luxury lifestyle magazine requested an interview. Marin sat in. Ray's apartment turned temporary office, staring at the screen. For a second, she just breathed. She wasn't chasing anymore. They were chasing her. Ray leaned over her shoulder. "You okay?" Marin nodded. "Yeah, just processing." She took a breath, clicked reply, and began writing her terms. Thou. Energy was off. Lana Blake sat in her corner office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and zero warmth. She scrolled Marin's newly updated Blake House website. Sleek, clever, dangerous, every piece of her screamed thief. How dare Marin resurrect the name? Their name. She clicked through Marin's recent project photos. Each one better than the last. Lana's jaw clenched. "She's getting traction," she muttered. "Who?" asked Catherine, stepping inside with a latte and a frown. "Marin." Catherine waved a dismissive hand. "Let her play. She won't last." Lana stood, crossing to the window. "She's not playing, Mother. She's building, and the industry is watching." Catherine narrowed her eyes. "Then it's time they remember who runs design in this city." Marin stepped into an uptown co-working space she'd just rented. It was bright, minimalist, and filled with young energy. A giant Blake House decal now adorned the glass wall of her private pod. She had a growing waitlist for design clients. But Marin wasn't satisfied with just rebuilding her business. She wanted to rewire the power. That afternoon, she met with Zoe Channing, editor-in-chief of Urban Nest, the most influential interiors magazine in the region. Zoe had attended the E. Kessler Gallery launch and requested a one-on-one. "I love what you did with the space," Zoe said, flipping through Marin's portfolio. "But I'm more interested in you. The story behind the name. The rebranding." Marin hesitated. She didn't want to lead with pain. But she knew power came from owning the narrative. "I was erased," Marin said quietly. "By the people, who taught me everything I know. So I decided to reclaim the name they built their empire on, because it was mine too." Zoe blinked, then smiled. "Would you say it's personal?" Marin's eyes were steady. "It's strategic." By the end of the meeting, Zoe had offered her the cover story for the spring issue. Back at Blake Interiors, a storm was brewing. Lana slammed the glossy mock-up of Urban Nest onto the table. Marin's face stared up at them. Strong, bold, surrounded by clean architecture and sharp lines. The headline read, "The Rise of Blake House, How One Woman Reclaimed Her Legacy." Catherine's mouth twisted. "She's making this about us," It is about us, Lana hissed. She's poisoning the brand we built. Then clean it up. Lana stared at her mother. How? Catherine's silence was calculated. Then softly, we remind people why we are who we are. And why isn't she? Marin's office was buzzing when Ray ran in, breathless and pale. 2 of your biggest clients just pulled out, Ray said. One said they heard whispers. The other mentioned something about licensing issues with the Blake name. Marin's stomach sank. Then came the email. A formal letter from Blake Interior's legal team, signed by Catherine Blake herself. We formally demand that you cease using the name Blake House in any professional materials, as it infringes upon the established trademark of Blake Interiors, Inc. Marin stared at it, rage creeping up her spine like fire. It wasn't business. It was war. Marin met Cal Harper at a quiet bar downtown. She slid the letter across the table. He read it, then leaned back with a whistle. Classic. You're winning. So they want the crown back. Marin drained her glass. They want me to fold, or fade. Cal leaned in. You know what you have to do, right? Marin's jaw clenched. Fight. Cal nodded. And not just in court, publicly, loudly, because they're betting you'll stay quiet. Marin sat across from Zoe Channing again, this time for a follow-up interview. Zoe looked intrigued. I've received a cease and desist from my former family's company, Marin said evenly. They want to erase Blake House again, but I won't let them. Zoe raised a brow. Will you fight it? I already am, Marin said. I'm not just rebuilding a brand, I'm correcting a legacy. The name Blake doesn't belong to one company. It belongs to every woman who was told she wasn't worthy of her own story. Zoe's eyes glittered. That's your quote. Marin sat in the corner of her co-working space, her laptop glowing in the dim afternoon light. The desist still lived in her inbox. Blake Interiors had gone full throttle. Legal threats, whispered blacklists, sudden client withdrawals, all designed to wear her down. But Marin Blake didn't bend anymore. She opened the last file Ray had uncovered from the old archive, one of the boxes she'd saved from her time at Blake Interiors, tucked away during her last days there. It was marked in her father's handwriting, Legacy Ledger, 1989-2004. Her breath caught. This wasn't just any document, it was the document, the original Blake House Foundation file. Her grandfather's final asset map, her grandmother's early designs, and at the end, something more unexpected. A letter. Signed by her father, Isaac Blake. Should anything happen, this is to confirm that Marin Blake is entitled to a 33% ownership stake in the original Blake House creative property and all branding rights attached to the Blake name within the field of design and architecture. Dated October 2004, 2 months before his death. Marin's hand trembled as she scanned. The page again. She had proof. Legal, time-stamped proof. And they had buried it. 2 days later, Marin walked into the Blake Interiors tower. Not as an employee, not as an exile, but as a woman armed with truth. She didn't schedule a meeting. She walked right past reception, past startled interns and into the glass conference room where Lana and Catherine were seated, reviewing lookbooks for an upcoming hotel line. Lana looked up. Marin, you can't just walk in. Yes, I can, Marin said, voice calm. And you'll want to hear this. Catherine's face tightened. Marin placed the letter on the table. I found Dad's original ledger, the one you buried, the one that makes me an official co-owner of the Blake House identity. Lana's fingers curled on the tabletop. Forgery? She offered weakly. Hard copy, original signature, notarized. I've already sent it to my lawyers, and the press. Catherine's smile didn't crack, but her eyes shifted, calculating. What do you want? She asked. An apology, Marin said, publicly. Catherine scoffed. And Blake House, my brand, remains untouched. You pull back every legal claim, every blacklist, every whisper campaign, and you never use my name against me again. Silence. Then Catherine stood, smoothing her blazer. You're your father's daughter. Marin didn't blink. That's what scares you. A week later, Urban Nest released its full feature. The headline, She Built the Table, Marin Blake's Reclaiming of a Dynasty. It detailed the sabotage, the internal power games, and Marin's stunning legal reveal. It named names, quoted timelines, highlighted the signature in the original ledger. The article exploded. Suddenly, Blake Interiors wasn't admired. They were exposed. The press firestorm scorched Catherine Blake's empire. Several high-profile clients pulled out. Investors demanded accountability. An internal review revealed more than just suppression. It hinted at financial misreporting. Lana resigned quietly, without a farewell post. Catherine took medical leave. Blake Interiors shrank. But Blake House bloomed. Marin now ran a team of 10 designers, architects, writers, and creatives. Her studio had moved into a restored loft in Tribeca. Her name graced magazine covers, podcast titles, and conference banners, but she never forgot why she fought. One spring evening, she stood on the rooftop of her new HQ sipping tea, watching the skyline. Ray joined her, grinning. You're on the Time shortlist for Most Influential Creative of the Year. Marin smiled softly. I never wanted the spotlight. Then why fight so hard for it? Marin's voice was steady. Because they built a table and told me I didn't belong. So I built my own and left the door wide open. Later that night, Marin framed her father's letter and hung it beside her desk. Below it, she added her handwritten quote, Legacy isn't inherited, it's claimed. As she stepped back and looked at the two messages side by side, the one from the man who believed in her and the one from the woman she had become, Marin Blake felt it fully. For the first time, she hadn't just won, she had redefined the empire.